Excited to have our next guest join us. I'm fairly certain that when she is out on the campaign trail, she is not referring to something she saw in a Facebook post that was posted by her neighbor's friend's daughter's cousin. I think she relies more on factual information. Kristin Alfheim is here. Good morning, Kristin. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Civic Media family. How are you?
We are
Doing
great.
right.
Very excited to have you with us. Kristin Alfheim is running in Senate District 18. It includes the bulk of Appleton, Menasha, Neenah, and Oshkosh. It did change quite a bit after the redistricting. So, Kristin, how are you feeling when you're out on the campaign trail and knocking on doors? What are you hearing from folks?
Listen, there's definitely a positive air out there on the streets of the Fox Valley. No question, the top of the ticket change has made an impressive change. I'm still working in what they call the persuasion universe. So I'm not talking to strong Dems, we're talking to infrequent voters and moderates. And I will absolutely tell you that there's about a 3-to-1 blue advantage in that range right now, without question. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of people that are just fed up with the entire negativity and the air of the nastiness that has
Yep.
gone on for how many years, and they just want to move forward again.
It's the incivility. It's
Mm.
the nasty rhetoric. It's the insults. It's the
Yeah,
punching down that I
yeah.
think a vast majority of people are like, it doesn't have to be this way. Why are we this way?
Right. And I try real hard, even, and I'll walk up to a door even if I see that there's a Trump sign. Not all of them. Some of them are so bold, you just know it's not a great choice. But if I walk up to a door and there's a single sign there, I'll still walk up and I'll have a conversation. And I think what people are appreciative of, again, this is the rational individual, the idea of someone who may be on the other side just saying, "Tell me how you feel." I'm going to listen no matter what, because how you feel is valid. And I think that's what I want to really get across in this election. We must start speaking again, because our emotions, how we're feeling, is real. We can't just blow everything off. And we have to get back to having these conversations as civil adults. Then we can start to move forward in terms of who is actually trying to make it better for you. What could we do that would make it feel better? We have to start listening to one another before we can start actually talking about who's truly interested in moving it forward and making it better for you at your kitchen table. And there's a clear difference in what's going on. But if we're all yelling at each other and assuming we're all evil and on the wrong side of things, we can't get there. So I am just, doing my best to be a rational individual and to be respectful and polite in listening and allowing people to be who they are and work through it together. And it's amazing on the end of that conversation how we find a lot of things in common,
Yep.
and we create relationships and positive energy to say, okay, well, you're not so bad. Nope, I'm not. Maybe if we actually dealt with each other on an individual basis, we could get back to that, as opposed to the tags of "you're this, so therefore I think this of you." It's not right. We need to stop.
I think you hit the nail on the head for me, and a question I was about to ask you, which was, knocking on the doors. You're sure to meet people who you disagree or they disagree with what you stand for, your policies and whatnot. But that knocking on the door, that acknowledging them as a person, a voter, someone in that district, and showing concern for them, that means the world to some people. They might have the sign of the candidate they love, and it might not be you, but the fact that you showed up, that can make all the difference in just perception alone. And I think that's something we hear from a lot of candidates we've been talking to this election season and in past, where they're just knocking on the doors and talking to people, because that's what you got to do. I
Right.
think that's one of the most important things in campaigning, that we were talking about it earlier, the fact that there's so much energy on the campaign trail with individuals like yourself and other candidates in Wisconsin, knocking on those doors, having good talks with people. And I
Yeah.
think that does make the difference and can change some minds too.
Yeah. I start every conversation at the door. And again, I don't know who it's going to be when I get there. I start every door with, "Here's who I am. This is what I'm running for. And I'm here to listen." We should be more listening than talking right now. People just need to be here, need to be heard, because there are pains that are going on. We can't ignore it. But if we can just let it out and then start moving toward it, I don't care whether it's the cost of groceries, if it's childcare, if it's wages, it doesn't matter the conversation. It hurts at home. So we have to be able to get that out so then we can move forward. So listening, getting back to the basics of how do we solve problems. It starts with listening and gathering all of the information. And I think if we as candidates do a better job of that, then people will realize we're not on opposite teams. We are actually on the same team. We are trying to make it better for people who live in our districts.
And I think too, Kristin, I think with the redistricting and with the election of Justice Janet Protasiewicz to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and she won so overwhelmingly. To me, this was evidence that most Wisconsinites are fed up with the gridlock and nothing getting done. They're just tired of it. And in order to get things done, you have to compromise. And compromising means neither side gets all the goodies that they want.
Absolutely. And I've said that all along. Neither side can always be right, and neither side is always wrong. We have to find a way to get the information out there. In Madison, everybody has been irritated in the last decade. The Republicans are mad because the governor has vetoed everything. The Democrats are mad because they've been locked in a cage and not even allowed to bring any ideas to the table. Everyone is mad. That's what gerrymandering causes. That's what caused it. So the fact that we have maps now, thankfully with Justice Protasiewicz in, now that we have the maps, now the expectation of working together must take place because accountability matters. If we show up in Madison and don't do anything, they're going to replace us. That's the reality, and that is the expectation. So we're going to have people on both sides that are going to continue to ask for the moon, on the right and on the left. And then there's going to be the batch in the center that says, okay, 10 steps is not going to work, but I think 3.5 to 4 is actually good for people and our fiscal bottom line. Let's work through that together. That is very much who I am, and I know that will be my job coming down there. Connect the dots in what's going to make us feel better and what is actually good for us in the economy and the grand scheme of things in government.
Kristin Alfheim is our guest. If you're just joining us, she is running in the 18th Senate District in Wisconsin, which includes the bulk of Appleton, Menasha, Neenah, and Oshkosh. Kristin, for people who are not familiar with you, tell us just a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so my background, I grew up on a small farm in Wisconsin, which if you know anything about growing up on a farm, it's different. You learn how to, you have the run of 300 acres to get yourself in trouble. Therefore, you need to figure out how to get yourself back out of trouble. It's the basics of problem solving. Give your independence just so you can mess it up and try and figure out your way through it. But you learn how to play, you learn how to be courageous, and you learn how to work. Those are the basics of learning on a farm. Then in my career, I've been dealing with taxes and money and helping advisors learn how to be in the financial services industry. And that at its core is about communication. It's about finding and establishing what the issues are, what it feels like, the facts and the feelings around it, and then trying to find a solution that actually moves forward and fixes it with people from differing backgrounds. That is everything that I am. In that industry, I ended up voluntarily being in advocacy in Madison and Washington, D.C. for well over a decade. Some of the issues were Republican-ish, taxes, retirement type stuff. Some of it was curing Alzheimer's, which tends to be a very blue issue. And I found that none of them are blue or red. They're purple. Don't we all want a rational tax code? Don't we all want the opportunity of financial success in retirement? And don't we all want to cure Alzheimer's? So I found success in working with each group with their alternate side to communicate better, to help both sides realize that working together would make it better for people. And that has been my strength. I ended up, after COVID kind of shut down our advocacy efforts, I ended up working, joining the city council here in Appleton. And it's amazing. As much as people think they understand about how government works, they're wrong.
They don't get it. Yeah.
Absolutely not. I can tell you I'm a fairly smart person that was paying attention. I knew nothing. Those 3 years on city council, working with economic development, working with safety and licensing, working with all of the aspects of how government works to help our communities be stronger versions of themselves. That is a tremendous amount of knowledge that helps give me more of the building blocks necessary as we move forward into larger and larger conversations about how do we help people staying within the realm of what we have in terms of resources. Those are not easy solutions, but we must work together through them to be conscious of our expenses and be sure that we are creating the best environment we can to live, to play, to work, to build a business. All of those things have to take place. And it is like balancing needles on their end to make it work. That is experience that is necessary as we move to the next level and start talking about things on the state level and beyond.
Well, and I think it's that kind of experience that you had, Kristen, on a local level is so critical, as you said, just to understand the inner workings of how these things go. And that continues with my bafflement why someone like Eric Hovde can come in who has no experience in government. Okay, he's had a successful business. Good for you. That's not government. And to come and say, well, I'm qualified to be a U.S. senator,
Yeah.
not even a state
Yeah.
senator, because I'm rich.
Yep.
That's my qualification. I don't think so.
The easiest part of politics is pointing out what hurts.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing to do is saying, hey, it's more expensive. Yes, it is. Now what? And there's a lot of candidates that have nothing after that. All they know how to do is to poke the wound as opposed to getting at what's causing it and how to solve it from happening again.
We're going to continue our conversation with Kristin Alfheim. She is running in the 18th U.S. Senate District. Stay with us. You are listening to Matt Nair on air, coming to you across the vast Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning and welcome back to Matt Nair on air. Jane Matt Nair, Greg Mock, Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can join us. You can call. You can text 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Elon continues to actively ruin. Very excited to have our next guest with us. Kristin Alfheim is running in Wisconsin's 18th Senate District. And I was looking a little bit at your opponent, Kristin, who is Republican Anthony Phillips. And according to what I have, he supports abortion bans. He supports Scott Walker's Act 10. And he is vowed to keep the 18th district in the hands of a conservative. One of the things that makes me especially crazy is all of the blatant falsehoods that some of our politicians repeat ad nauseum. And the one that is the current thing making me crazy is abortion up until the 9th month and after birth. And when you're knocking on doors, are you hearing a lot of that garbage being repeated back to you?
No, I would say, I mean, and I do 200 plus doors a week, plus
Wow.
meetings with people, plus, I mean, it's never ending. And I will say that I have not been in a conversation like that in weeks.
Good.
I do not hear that often at the doors where I'm at right now. I do have conversations. I do have people that feel strongly about it. I do have people that will acknowledge they don't like it, but they also understand that someone should not be in a position of having to carry a pregnancy beyond. So I am hearing, if more so than that, I'm hearing more people that are actually, at a base pro-life, but there's acceptance of the fact that it isn't there are gray areas in the conversation. So no, I'm not hearing a lot. The only place I hear stuff like that is on Facebook, where you have, again, candidates or ex-candidates or just people out there throwing nonsense. And it just drives me crazy. And it's on the radio too. I mean, it is unbelievable that you can get away with saying anything you want to. Yep. That's so far from the truth, and then blast that. I was listening to, I do listen to both sides on things. I think it's important to know what's being said and different opinions. And I was coming back from Oshkosh door knocking the other day, and there was a strongly right-sided conversation out of another Oshkosh station. And a woman had sent a letter in saying, what's this Project 2025 that the libs are talking about? And the host explained that all it was a list of potential candidates that Trump could use to appoint in his cabinet because he struggled in the past. And he repeated that statement 3 times.
So he lied 3 times.
That is such a blatant lie. And that was broadcast on one of the largest news stations in Oshkosh. And I'm sure it was a national broadcast. There should be laws. There should be laws. There used to be laws.
Yes.
The bottom line is they are going into the mindset, if you repeat a lie enough times, it'll come back and become reality. That needs to stop. It just needs to stop. We have to We have to hope and pray that rational people start to come back to the reality of common sense, put all the information together and make a good decision. And we can't make that happen for everyone, but we have to hope. And I do believe that there is a section of the people that acknowledges that they went down the wrong path. They picked the wrong pony, and they are now starting to back out. It is always difficult to acknowledge we've made a mistake. Sometimes it's easier to stay on the wrong path than to acknowledge we may have picked the wrong one. And I think there's a lot of people that, again, they're coming to their senses and they're saying, enough, come on, enough. Let's move forward.
And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Kristin, and we did get your text and referred to Project 2025, and we've done a number of shows about Project 2025 and the far-reaching, far more than just staffing a second Trump administration. This is literally reworking democracy to the point where it will be unrecognizable.
It won't be democracy anymore.
No, it won't. And in my opinion, Project 2025 is the blueprint for any next Republican administration. It doesn't matter if it's Trump.
No.
It doesn't.
You know, it's crazy to me. Again, you'll flip through Twitter or whatever you want to call it, and there's just all these comments about anybody that comes from the far right and is saying that the Democrats are trying to ruin things. How are we ruining them? Because we want children to be educated, because we want to feed children, because we think housing should be affordable, because we think every individual should have a vote. How is that a negative? I just don't understand the complete differences in who we are as people and organizations. There is a philosophical challenge that is going on right now in our society. Philosophical. And we have to truly understand where we are in history. And in my opinion, and these maps come back to the circle. In Wisconsin, in my opinion, we must act more globally as an organization. We have worked so hard to finally get maps that represent who we are as a state. That is not the end of the mission. Now we have to help each other. If there are 5 Senate seats this year up that can be flipped for the first time in over a decade, it does not matter where you live. You should find them wherever you live, because wherever the districts can be flipped, it affects where you live in your kitchen table and the policies that are going to go into play over the next 4 years. So adopt a district. If you're in a solid blue district, go find one that now is purple and has the opportunity to be blue. Adopt that district as your own and help it become blue so we can get back to taking care of the people in the state. We must look beyond our own back doors right now and take action to solve the problem in Wisconsin, which has been lack of representation of all people. There are major issues on our ballot: women, children, healthcare. You name it. We have got to work together across the state as the Democratic Rational Party to help all of these seats get turned so that we are once again a proper functioning representative government in Madison, doing what's best for the people in the state.
And as you said yourself, Kristin, and if I get elected and I don't do my job, they can vote me out. That's how it's supposed to work. You're not supposed to be so protected in that seat that no matter what you set on fire, we cannot replace you. So, yeah.
Action is expected. Action is expected. You can't just talk talking points. You must have action to back it up. We as a state need to realize the strategy. And I think the Republicans are usually known for their strategy. It is our turn. The Democrats must work together across the state. We finally have the maps. Now let's fill the seats and get back to government works in the middle. It always has. One side gets too carried away, the other side votes them out and moves it back. The pendulums are what kill us. This is where action happens. So let's ensure that we have the action that we need by getting all of these Democrats across the state in the Assembly and the Senate in Madison so we can start fixing these issues and moving forward.
Kristin, what's your website?
It is alfheimforwisconsin.org. And yes, you have to spell that out. I apologize.
That's all right. We'll put that in our show notes. Kristin Alfheim running for the Senate District in the 18th Senate District. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Have fun out on the road. Have fun knocking on those doors. And we will talk to you soon.